right. Well, for those early birds who are just showing up now, we will begin in just a few minutes. I've got our little countdown timer going. This is being streamed both over on YouTube as well as on Facebook. So no matter what you are trying to jump in on the call for, welcome. So a little over 4 minutes to go. We'll get started right at the top of the hour. For those of you who stumbled your way over here, or you somehow had subscribed to the YouTube, the WPStudio YouTube channel or the Facebook page, and you just saw that there was an event today, this is actually a 3-parter, which we will get started at the top of the hour in just a few minutes. When the countdown timer gets down to 0 is when we will start. We're just having a little chat and conversation during the pre-show. We're going to spend the next 3 days looking at the similarities, the differences, advanced functionality, how to go beyond just the basic implementation of Pods as well as Metabox. But we'll get into that as soon as we get started. I'm just going to move a few things around here on the broadcast desk. Make sure everybody can see. All right, again, just a little over 2 minutes to go. Whether you're chatting or asking questions on YouTube or Facebook, I should be able to see all of the chats across the different networks. If not, we'll work out the kinks as we go. That's kind of how we do it here at WPStudio. We do everything live, figure things out as we go. All right, just a little over a minute to go before we dive into our first of 3 free trainings here at WPStudio, which is being broadcast out to YouTube and Facebook. I'll explain what we're going to be doing for the next 3 days, each day at 2 o'clock. Feel free to subscribe, follow, like, whatever you normally do on a Facebook or a YouTube channel so that you can be alerted to upcoming events. That way you can also get alerted to when I go live for free events. And I'll talk a little bit more about WPStudio as well. All right, just a few seconds to go here. There may be a slight delay for the rebroadcast, so it might not say 2 o'clock at your time, but it is 2 o'clock where we are broadcasting from. So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another live event here at WPStudio. We're mixing things up this summer. So normally all live training events occur over at WPStudio.com. And it's been that way for a number of years. And there's just on that website alone, there's a library of over 400 hours of live training events that we have done. That's all part of the membership. We'll talk more about that later. But today is day one of our 3-part comparison, and whether you want to say it a combat by trial, because we're going to be building multiple things on WordPress using both pods, and we're going to look at the similarities and differences of pods. It's a free WordPress plugin. If you have never seen pods before, you are in for a treat when we take a look at how pods works with WordPress and how you can extend the functionality of WordPress without being a massive coder. And we are going to compare that to Metabox. Now, the reason why we're going to be using these as direct comparisons between these two items, in our pods versus Metabox, is because these are unique solutions that are built on top of WordPress that extend WordPress. Now, many of you may have heard of other tools, advanced custom fields. Maybe you have heard of other types of custom post type creators that you use in WordPress. The reason why we are focusing on Metabox and pods is because Metabox and pods combines the custom post type creation, which we'll take a look at in just a moment. It combines the custom fields, these adding additional fields beyond like a title or a content, which we'll see in just a moment. And it has complex templating. So because those are the 2 areas or 3 areas, that's why we're not really looking at advanced custom fields, other popular plugins that you might use, because for many of them, to really get the implementation that we are going to do today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, you'd have to dive into some PHP code. You'd have to dive into a theme. You'd have to dive into a functions.php. My goal is to teach you how to do some advanced things without having to go advanced. I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully it will by the end of these 3 sessions. So let me just clean up the screen here, because we are going to be diving back and forth between Metabox and pods. We're probably going to spend a lot of time today on pods, but I didn't want you guys to be left with the current version of pods, because you might, if I just did the current version of pods, you might walk away saying, oh, well, I am definitely going to start using Metabox because it can do so much more and I have so much more control. That's true. But there is a new version of pods coming out, and it's pods 2.8. It is very close to being done. You can actually come and download the latest beta version to test it out, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Now, in order to get this beta version, sure, you could go over to the Pods GitHub repo. And again, Pods is free, so you can just go grab it either at the GitHub repo or by going to pods.io. The best way to do that is go to pods.io, take a look at the blog. The first blog post that you will see, and in this post, you will see a direct link to the Pods 2.8 beta zip file. Now, if you currently have a website that uses pods and you want to try out some of the things that we're going to talk about today, you can do that, but there's a little trick. So I have a new test site that we're going to play around with over here that has a number of the plugins that we're going to use over the next few days. But you'll notice how I have both Pods 2.7 and Pods 2.8 installed on the site. Only one of them can be active at a time. You can't have both of them active, otherwise you will have issues. So what we've got going on here is I went ahead and deactivated my current version of Pods and activated the beta version. One thing to know if you're unfamiliar with how WordPress stores the database of all your custom post type, it's perfectly fine to deactivate pods and then reactivate it. You're not going to lose anything. You're not going to lose your custom post type stuff. In fact, on Wednesday, I'm going to show you how you can migrate back and forth between different custom post type plugins without having to do any migrations. You just have to know the namings of the fields, and you can just move it over to a different system. But we'll get to that on Wednesday, so make sure you come back for that. So this is what we're doing today. We're going to be taking a look at utilizing Pods 2.8, not the current version. You got to use the beta version, and you'll see why. And in fact, we might periodically switch back and forth between the current released version of Pods and the beta release so you can see the difference. For those questions that are coming in, yes, this is going to be recorded. So if you do have to jump off and go anywhere, these free webinars not only are going to be recorded, but they'll be part of the YouTube, the WPStudio YouTube channel. So you can go back and watch them whenever you want. You won't have to become a member of WPStudio or anything like that. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to start with Pods because Pods is one of those revolutionary tools that came about a long time ago and has been completely free since day one. Now, why are you, or some of you maybe hearing about Pods for the first time? Well, part of the reason why you're hearing about Pods for the first time is, and bear with me 1 second. Every once in a while, there's a comment assistant that works on this broadcast thing that if it really likes one of your comments, it's going to put it up on the screen. So, Rick, I don't know if you meant to put that up on the screen, but the comment assistant really liked that. All right. So we are starting with Pods because it has been around for over 10 years. Now, let me give you just a little background about why things like Pods and Metabox are so important. WordPress, again, if you've never been on a training webinar by me, you will get used to a term called a rabbit trail. I fall down rabbit trails a lot because there's just some interesting things that would be great to communicate. So in the history of WordPress and where it came from, when we first started, the only thing that existed in WordPress was actually pages. Was the posts. The first version of WordPress, which was forked from the B2 blogging engine, we only had posts. In fact, we didn't even have categories and tags at the beginning. And so because it all started with posts, it became a big deal when all of a sudden we got pages. Now there were two different types of custom post types. And all of a sudden, WordPress became not just a blogging engine, a blogging piece of software, but we could start as developers and designers of websites, we could start building unique situations. And Felix, I will talk about Oxygen and other alternative integrations on Wednesday, kind of when we take a look at some more advanced functionality stuff. But yes, there's a way you can absolutely do what we're going to do today with Oxygen, as well as other themes that don't use traditional templating systems. And there's multiple ways of doing it. All right. So for those of you who may have been developing with WordPress for many years and you've been doing client work, one of the things that we experienced was we had to educate clients on, if we were making them a custom, like a newspaper website, hey, when you are creating a blog post and you're coming in here and you're editing something, and you need to learn how to use the categories, you need to learn how to use the tags so that we can handle our tags, and we can handle and kind of sort out through a query where the tags go, where the categories go. That's not how a good content management system works. We needed a way to easily extend WordPress by offering different types of custom post types. Whether if I'm going to create a recipe site, I should be able to create a recipe custom post type and not shoehorn it into a page or a post and then tell the client, hey, anytime you do a recipe, you need to check the box on the category recipe in order for us to render it onto the theme in a different way. Those are all different things to think about. Well, if you ever worked with Drupal, the Drupal content management system, at the beginning stages of Drupal, they allowed you to create and declare different post types. That's something that WordPress didn't offer. Well, that's where Pods came in. Pods provided the option of adding new post types, taxonomies, custom settings pages, as well as extending things that currently existed in WordPress, like extending what posts have, like adding additional fields. So it's not just the title, the content, the featured image. We could add more stuff. And so it got its kind of inspiration from how Drupal did things, and Pods was there. And after Pods, there was a whole bunch of other custom post type creators, things that would allow you to extend, but none of them added extra fields and none of them added templating on top of it. So I'm going to take literally 2 minutes to show you from scratch how I can easily add a custom post type using Pods. And this is specifically a little section for those of you who have never done anything with Pods. So here we are, brand new WordPress website. I've installed Pods. I come over here to my edit Pods, and I'm going to create a new pod. What are we going to create? A simple drop down gives us the option of, are we going to create a post type? So that's like a post or a page. Are we going to create a taxonomy as a way that we could attach to a custom post type? Or are we going to do a settings page? Now, on Tuesday, we're going to look at settings pages and other things. So let's create a book and books. So basically, we're using our singular label and our plural label. Now, before I go forward, I do want to let you know, you could do all of this in code in your functions.php or build yourself your own plugin. You can do it all in code. You just have to learn all the PHP hooks and functions that are used to create the custom post type, or you can use a user interface like Pods to create it for you. All right, next step. Well, guess what? Look at this. Our custom post type is already created. We did not have to do anything else. In fact, if I come over here and I can click Add New, we're going to see, hey, look, here we are. We're in a custom post type for adding title and starting your information, writing your content. Now, if you were using the classic editor, you'd get the traditional classic editor as well. Let me leave that page. All right, so we're back here. But it doesn't stop here, because if I were writing in code, I'd have a long array of arguments that would set like different labels on my custom post type that would enable whether or not it's a hierarchical custom post type, whether it has certain rewrites for the permalink. All these type of things exist. But I can do everything through simple settings here in Pods. In my label, these are all the labels that would exist and be used throughout the admin section of WordPress. So for example, if we see new book, where would that show up, or add new book? Well, part of that is here, add new all books. See, I can see there's my all books. Now, if I wanted it to not say all books and say check the library, and I hit save pod, by simply changing that label, and I come over here to check the library, see? I'm able to provide a customization for my clients that is second to none. I can go as deep as I want for client websites or my own personal sites that I build. And you can do all of that in this label section. In the admin UI, we can go through and provide a little post type description. This is not used as much unless a theme can go in their query and pull that type of stuff out. That's not as important. If I show admin UI, I can turn that on and off. Basically, the admin UI would be seeing the books, all this type of stuff. I can show admin menu in dashboard or turn it off. I can show it in the navigation menus and turn it off, and show in admin bar new menu. Now, where are these? Because sometimes if you're not as familiar with WordPress, just seeing these checkboxes, you don't know exactly where those are. This show in admin bar new menu is right up here. Look at this. I now have automatically been able to choose whether my new shows up for book. In my navigation menus, if I'm working in creating the menus, I now have, I have to first create my first menu. This is a brand new website if you're just joining us. Okay, so by doing this, I can see, look, my books are an option that I can utilize in the menu. So all that's easy. In the admin menu in the dashboard, this is the admin menu on the left-hand side. So it shows up. I have the ability to turn those on or off. Again, it gives you great flexibility when creating a custom solution for a client. Again, is it public? Is it public queryable? Meaning, are we going to return search results using the WordPress search? Come back for a future webinar where I'll talk you through how to improve WordPress search and how to use different plugins for search. That's a future planned webinar. So you definitely want to follow the WPStudio YouTube channel or get involved with the newsletter over at WPStudio to know about these upcoming trainings. Or you could exclude it from the search. Is it going to be hierarchy? Have hierarchy, so we're treating it like a page. You know how pages can have parent pages and sub pages or child pages, whereas posts are all like horizontal. Each post is at the same level in the hierarchy. We can choose that. We can even come through here and say, do we want to support traditional or the standard WordPress settings? Well, maybe we do want a featured image, so we need to turn that on. Maybe I'm not going to use the regular editor because I'm going to add my own fields, so I'm not going to use the content. I'll leave the title and this featured image. We'll turn off all the other things because I'm not going to deal with comments on this and all these other things. Now, Rick, you just popped in a question that I saw about Toolset and jet engines. Those are other tools that really need you to stay within their ecosystem to work. The reason why we are, again, focusing on Pods and Metabox is it doesn't matter what theme you use, what tool you use. You don't need compatibility issues. They will simply work because it's WordPress. Now, I love Toolset. For those of you who know me from WPStudio, we've done a whole bunch of webinars on Toolset as well. I just tend to gravitate more towards these, and you'll see why over the next few days. All right. The templating option we'll cover in a little bit, and then the REST API is here. Now, here's a little trick. I know, and I still know, that the Gutenberg/block editor is popular with some people, not very popular with other people. Sometimes the Gutenberg block editor is not very friendly to new users, where they would simply just like an area to write their content. There is a very simple way of forcing Gutenberg not to be used on your custom post type that you create with Pods. What is it? If you just turn off REST API, we save that. Let's go add a new book. Look, we're back in the traditional WordPress. Now, remember, we took away the content and we'll add our own fields. But that's one of those neat little tricks that I didn't even have to go tell it to turn off Gutenberg. I just turned off the REST API if I'm not using it for this post type. We'll leave it on there for now. All right. So that's how I can create this. But for our books, I want to show you how easy it is to add new fields. Now, The traditional way, and I'm going to show you this, so bear with me 1 second. I'm going to save this pod, and we are going to flip back to the old version or the current released version of Pods. So let me deactivate this version of Pods, and we'll activate the current release, the 2.7. All right, let's go back, edit our books. When I add a field, all I can do is lump all those fields together. I can write some function codes to sort them and bring them together and put them in different meta boxes. But if I were to do something like author name, name, and then say, hey, I'm going to use a plain text field, select that. Sure, we're all set to go. We've got our named field. But what happens is under the current released version, when I go add a new one, we get a more fields box. Doesn't look great. There's not a way to, unless you are actually writing a filter, and this is where you'd have to go into your functions.php, write a filter to edit the title of this, and then for us to group things together. All right, let's go back. And I just wanted you to see if you hadn't seen the current version of Pods. We're going to deactivate and now activate the beta version. If you missed the beta version, go back and watch the beginning of this video. All right, so let's go back to our Pods. You'll see that the screen is slightly different. We've got, and it brought over the field that we created, our name. But let's start with creating our, editing our more fields. So when we hover over this grouping, so each one of these white boxes you are going to see that are clearly defined, that has an add new group down below, this is a grouping. So we can actually create multiple meta boxes that will show up. And I'll show you that in just a moment. So let me edit this. So now I can do author information. Author, how about I spell it correctly? And I can say, what is my meta box context? Normal, side, or advanced, where this is the positioning, and the priority is where we're putting something higher or lower. We'll just leave everything normal right now. Again, it's a grouped detail. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to restrict access to certain roles or capability, but you could. Great thing is, let's say you are building a site for a client, and maybe you have an editor and you have a writer. Well, the writer comes in and fills out the form and they hit submit. But guess what? When a writer submits it, all it goes to is draft. And then the editor who comes in will see some additional boxes. We could put some extra fields in there for just the editor to fill out. Then they can submit. And when an editor submits, it publishes it. So there's some really cool ways where a writer won't see these extra fields because we have restricted the access. All right, so let me save that group, and immediately you see author information is here. So we've got our author name. Let's go ahead and add a few more fields. Now, this is the new look of Pods 2.8. It is the ability for us to grab our labels. We'll call this one our author photo. And I'm going to come over here and say, you know, what could we do? Let's go ahead and say, let's a file, image, video. Now, I can now come in here and say, okay, what options do we have? Is it a single file? Well, what about if you want to kind of a repeater, or some people refer to them as clones? I can have multiple files. They can select as many as they want. I can choose to use the regular WordPress media library or a PHP upload thing, PL upload. I can choose where am I going to put it? Attachment default tab. Do we automatically? If you don't know this, it's when you go to upload something using the media library, there are two tabs on that modal window. One of them says upload file. One of them is the media library. Let's say you're building a solution for a client or your own website that you already have tons of their pictures that they're going to use already in the media library. So rather than them uploading, you're wanting them to select things from the media library so you can basically force the default tab. Great little feature there. Is the title editable? Yes. Do you want to show the edit link? So this is using the WordPress editor that allows people to crop images or not, or resize or rotate. You can choose to use that. Again, we can choose to restrict it to specific extensions. Let's say you are only going to be doing WebP and PNG and JPEG. You're not allowing anything else. Well, you can set the file extensions that and if somebody tries to upload something, tries to upload a GIF or something, it's not going to work. It's going to reject it. So we can have all these. We set our fields, go into the advanced, again, with some default values. We may get into some of this stuff on Wednesday, but this is more, we do a lot of this training in WPStudio. So if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned towards the end of this webinar, and I'll tell you how you can take advantage of some of those. So I'm going to save that field. So now we've got a name and an author. So if I were to save this pod right now, and again, we're just kind of skimming through this, I'm going to add a new book. You're going to see now we are left with our author information box. So we can fill out the name of the author, and we can upload or go to our media library, whatever we have for our photo. All right, let's go back here to our post, our pods, because I wanted to show you that this is the new feature of Pods 2.8 that's coming. I can now add a new group. Let's call this one our book info. I'm going to save this. But guess what? If I were to go over here, basically my book title is going to be up here, add title. So I want the author information after, or maybe I want to put the author information over here on the sidebar and then have the book information right below it. So let's do that. So first, I'm going to drag my book information up here. I'm going to edit my author information and say, hey, we're going to put this on the side. Now, in our book information, let's add a field, and then let's call this one, what shall we use? Just so you know all the things you could do, you can use a plain text, a website. So the website already has the sanitation and the filtering to make sure that you're using and the validating that you're using an actual website URL. We've got our phone number, an email, a password. You can do a plain paragraph text. So that's like a select box in a traditional HTML form. We use the WordPress WYSIWYG editor. You can have a code editor that already has code syntax highlighting in there. Date, time, plain numbers, currencies, different uploads, relationship fields. These are backwards and forwards. We'll get into some advanced stuff tomorrow on that. Yes, no's, color pickers, and then even just some layout stuff. If I wanted to put additional instructions to the client on their custom post type so that they remember how to fill things out. It's a perfect way to put this into your custom post type. So we're going to go ahead here, and I think we'll just use this, and we'll call this one book overview. And we could put a few other fields like publish date. So we're only really concerned about a year. So I can come into this date, go to my date options. I have my predefined format. What do I want to do? I'm more concerned with just the year. So I select how I format the date. And by selecting this, it's only going to do dates. And so now I can also come in here and say, I'm only concerned with 1960 to 2025. Save that field. I can come over here and add one more. We'll call this one our... Oh, actually, this is a sample. So let's just cancel this and save the pod. So here's what we've done before we take a look back at this. We now have 2 meta boxes with 2 fields in it, in each. And Yannick, yes, Elementor can access pods fields. We'll do that in some advanced functionalities, both on Tuesday and Wednesday. All right, so let me just quick show you this, add new. So now not only is our author information now on the right side, but my book info is in the proper location. And again, I have my date, notice how none of these ones are selected. I probably have to format this slightly better. But you could do a whole bunch of this stuff. Which is really weird. Why isn't that selecting? I think I'm now into some really weird. I probably shouldn't have clicked this so many times. Okay, one of the other things you'll learn about WPStudio training, I will sometimes paint myself into a corner as I talk my way through how you're doing something. It's perfectly understandable, and hopefully how I get out of it helps all of you and also encourages you that if you get stuck in a certain thing or you expect the plugin to work in a certain way, don't worry. It doesn't always function how we think it's supposed to function. It's like programming in Python. Just because you have 1 + 1 does not mean you're actually going to get the answer 2. Literally. Okay. So anytime that happens, or I get too weird into a date publishing thing, 2 things you can do. Just hit refresh. So you go back to the traditional or whatever you have here. Then you can work on whatever you need to set it as, or we can go back to pods and we can fix something. All right. So now that we've done this, I'm about ready to show you the superpower of pods. Let's create a book in order for you to see the superpower. We need to create 2 books. Big book. Actually, if I spell correctly, Big Book of Awesomeness. Wow. This is amazing. And Bob Bobertson. All right. Bob has just written a book. Great. Let's create a new book. New book by Bob. This is the Bob follow-up expose. Whatever. We need Bob's name on there, and it was published in 2021 as well. All right, let's publish it. The reason why I'm doing this, check the library. Here's my books. Great. I don't need this draft. Let's trash that for now. So here's the problem. If I go take a look at the Big Book of Awesomeness on my theme, and again, I'm using GeneratePress free plugin right now, but basically any theme you use, you will run into this exact issue. Where is the content? Where is the author name? Where is the date published? Oh, are you telling me I have to go figure all that stuff out? Well, Pods makes it super easy. So let's come back over here to our Pods. There was one tab we didn't talk about, and that's this auto templating option. So Pods has a really cool templating method where you don't have to know query or anything beyond some basic HTML, and I'll show you why. So we're going to come over here in the admin menu on the left-hand side where it says Pods template. So let's create a Pods template. And let's do something. I'm going to just move these around. Let's do something like a single post for books. So this would be how we would show our single post for books. Over here on the right-hand side is a Pods reference. And I can select which pod I am wanting to use. And what populates here are all the field names for everything that touches this post type. So that could be the post information, but maybe if we have menu orders, we have comment things, we have authors, we've got post date, post modified, all these different things that all affect these. We can pull this stuff like a mail merge using Pods magic tags into our template. So for example, if I create a little div and we'll do like class book, we'll get our nice little formatting going. I want to put a header and I want this post title. I want the title of the book to show up first. So Pods uses the kind of squiggly brace and then the @ sign. We'll pull up a drop down. Basically, this is a drop down of whatever we have set here. So I can select the post title and it's going to fill it in. We close it out and now we have our H2 tag. All of a sudden, let's go ahead and I'm doing something very simple here. You can do something a lot more complex. I need to get the book overview. So I started typing BO and it gets to the book overview. And so it's going to grab that book overview. And then let's just below that, we'll also do something like book written by, and then we'll do a author name. These were these extra fields that we added. Now I'm just going to publish this. So we now have a template. So let's now assign this template to be used for this post type. Edit pods, go to books, go to advanced templating options, enable it. And so now my singular template, what do you want to use? I want to use, did I not save that template? I think I just literally did the thing. Okay, luckily it was still saved in my cache. Let's update this. So good. So now our template is there, saved. Let's go back over to our edit post, templating. Oh, awesome. Okay, here's why it's a beta version. The dropdown is broken. It's okay. I can figure it out without the dropdown. Normally, this will drop down and show you all the post templates. So what we'll just do is we'll come over here, and this is going to be the single post. If I click on this, you're going to actually see this is basically the name of the template. And I hope this works because I wouldn't be able to show you. Single post. Let's see if this pulled it off. There it is. Okay. So it did work. So basically, I just took the title, dropped it in here. When they release 2.8, this will be a dropdown. Currently, in the current version of Pods, this is a dropdown, and it will show you and display all your post templates that you have there. Now, you'll notice how all of a sudden I have two titles, one that's basically being generated by the theme and one that's being generated by our Pods template, where this is the content, this is the book written by Bob Robertson. So here's our thing. Where are we putting the singular template? Right now it's set to be after. So basically it just looks for the regular piece of content, the regular custom post type, and puts this after, puts the template after. If I were to put it, before, whoops, hit it before, you'll see that our stuff will show up before their stuff. And basically the title of this book is also, this is outside of the loop on the single post. That's why it's not showing anything different. We're going to replace the content. So when we replace the content on the single book, all right, so we're still running into a beta issue. Again, why it's not released. Normally what would then happen is because we're replacing the content, the theme will no longer set its title, no longer set its content. It will just allow us to do what we want for this. All right, so actually notice an issue. If you ever see this where you all of a sudden have this index.php showing up, it's because you haven't set the permalink. And we didn't set it because we got some weird thing going on there that happened at the beginning, and I want to change the permalink. This was a brand new site when we started today, so that's why we never went in there and set the permalink. That's going to adjust a few things. So let me just go back over to our book and let's view that. So there, now we're on a book of Awesome. Now, this is the other thing that happens when you're working with custom post types or any type of way of extending WordPress. If you were to notice how what I did is I eliminated the URL of that specific post and I went back to the custom post type archive page. That's how the permalinks are working. Basically, you'll append the name of the post type to the end of your domain, and you'll get an archive. Well, that's most likely because we forgot to say that this was this custom post type has an archive. Look, enable archive page is not checked. So we're going to check that. Save the pod. Then we come back over here and we test it. And actually, in order for us to do it properly, because WordPress already knows it can't be found, we need to go refresh the permalinks. Anytime you get that where you're changing things up, something that has an archive or not, simply go save the permalinks. That flushes out all the URL rewrites, allows you to go again. And so there we are. Now we're on the archive books. Look, we have the same problem. New book by Bob, big book of awesomeness. That's why with Pods admin, we can come in with our template and we can assign also our list template. Look, here's why it's beta. It's now showing up. So I'm going to have to tell them that if they don't set the permalinks, these don't show up. Once you set the permalinks, they show up, which is kind of weird. So in this one, I'm going to go ahead and replace as well. We're just allowing that same template to be used on the archive. And let's see if we can just get it to insert in. All right, we're running into fun stuff. So what would happen, and I probably should go back to the original version, the current released version of Pods. It would replace that. But the big change is the new fields. So that's an interesting aspect of creating custom post types. Pods it's all in one. You can create your templates, assign them. You can override anything else. So just as an example of what we'll look at on Wednesday, I think, for some advanced functionality, if you're using things like Elementor Pro, Beaver Builder, Oxygen theme, or other things, one of the things, as long as we know what the filter is that displays the content, we don't have to mess with any code in the theme or in the functions, because we simply use the hook name for where the loop is, the WordPress loop. Now, one of the problems with using and only understanding WordPress in the world of page builders is you may not have the background to understand how templates and template hierarchy works, which is part of the core of WordPress. If that's where you are, I'd encourage you to watch some of our webinars where we dive into core WordPress code so we can understand the underlying workings of how WordPress fetches things out of the query, prepares it for a theme to display and render. Because if all you work in is page builders, you may not realize there's a lot more stuff going on underneath. And if you can understand that, you can then tweak it and modify it and make it work for yourself. So you're not reliant on other people's plugins to do queries for you or things like that. All right. I really didn't mean to spend 40 minutes, 45 minutes on just pods. But I felt maybe getting a good reminder on what pods can do is helpful. I did not want to go longer than an hour, so I'm going to do a little speed run with Metabox. I'll talk you through it. Now, Metabox a number of years ago was basically just a code library that allowed you to build things, but you had to dive into PHP arrays and queries. Well, Metabox now has like a builder system for creating your content, creating your structure, and as a way of viewing things. So I wanted to quick pull this off. All right. So let me move this. So I'm going to show you everything we just did with pods. And again, don't forget, tomorrow and Wednesday, we will dive into the other things we can do with pods, like settings pages, extending regular WordPress. All right. So in Metabox, I am using the Metabox all-in-one, which basically just dumped all of their plugins onto one site and makes it easier to manage. Lorraine, I just caught your question. Singular template option. Great question. Let me just quick jump back over here so I can explain it. And in this, over here in the advanced templating options, you'll see a template location. So basically, this hook, most WordPress themes are going to use the content filter for the stuff that would appear in the content area, the body of a WordPress post, the content of the post. And so it would write a filter, and you could either, before the filter occurs, we would put our template, or after the filter. One of the ways people use this is if they really like their theme and how their theme formats, but they want to get those additional fields that you create with pods, they'll put it after, and in their template, they won't use like the title tag. They won't use the content box or anything else like that. They will just put the extra fields listed below. Like if you were building a car listing website or a house, a real estate site, maybe you just have tons and tons of fields that you're still going to use the regular post and content, post title and content, and you could put this after, which would be a listing of all of the statistics or specifics about the house. Or you can simply replace the content that is filtered. So the location and the list template location, you can attach that custom post type UI and other plugins like that don't offer. So let's come over here and we'll create a movie. Movie. I can go through the same thing, edit the labels, choose different types of advanced things. Now, here's a neat little thing. In pods, I would have to go in and find the dash icon to give it something. But here in Metabox, I can simply select something that looks like a movie. Great. Now we'll have a movie item. I can come in here, say, is this does it have a hierarchy? Does it have an archive? Enable post type archives is already there. I can come in and say, what are we supporting the traditional WordPress stuff? And are we attaching any taxonomies? Let me publish this. Now, this is something that sets Metabox aside. Let's say you have a dev site where you are working on your clients, but you want your client's site to be so pristine with a little amount of plugins as possible because you firmly believe that code, which is true, when executed properly, is always going to be faster than sites with plugins. Well, look at this. So on let's say this is my dev site. I'm like, all right, I've got my little custom post type for movies. I've done all my work. Give me the code. Okay, so here's the code that you could simply just go drop this into a functions.php of your live site, and all of a sudden your site will now have all of this custom post type for a movie. That's it. I can get my PHP code. So I don't have to have Metabox running on the site. It wrote the code necessary in standard WordPress code. There's nothing specific about this code that is just to Metabox. But a movie, the same way we made additional fields, we need to attach those some more fields. Well, the way Metabox works is post types are separate. Custom fields can be grouped together, and I can attach different fields to different post types. So I can come in here and say, I want to make a movie group of fields, movie fields. So let's add a field. What type of field do you want to use? Do I want to do things like file uploads, some layout information? What about if I want to pull things from WordPress, a different post, like give me a listing where people can select the post that it's going to affiliate with. Some HTML, date, time pickers, Google Maps, OpenStreetMaps, lots of stuff that happens here. Your regular basic fields. So I'm going to just use a text field and say director. Now, you'll notice there are a lot of options here where I can sit here and say, all right, there's a lot of options. What do I want to deal with? Again, I do a lot of training on this. And if you want to go deeper, that's part of what the WPStudio membership is all about. So I can come in here and we can create, we'll just do one more field here. And let's do something like we'll just do another text field. Length of movie. And you're like, oh, a length of movie? I don't really want a text field. Can we change that to like a number field? Sure. Change that to a number field. So now it'll validate on numbers, and maybe I need a description on, do something like minutes, so that I can remember that I'm just trying to get the minutes of this. All right, so I got 2 fields, but what do I do? Because this is a field group, I want to attach this field group to, what do I want to attach it to? Post type, user settings, comments, settings page, Gutenberg block, or because I want post type, I want to attach it to my movie custom post type. Let's publish this. Now, again, I'm trying to move through this fairly rapidly. I've got my movie, add new. So, disaster movie. The world has ended and there are no more actors. The world cheers. All right, now look, my movie fields. Bob Bobertson is our director. And the length of the movie, if I do 120, look at this. I now have because it's a number field, it understands what up and down is. All right, so we'll go ahead and publish this. Great, I've got my idea. Let's go view this movie. Oh, looks like because I've got a brand new custom post type, let's just go do our permalink setting thing. Settings, permalinks. I have some heavy caching on this server, so that's also probably why we're also having issues. Let's go over here and view the movie. All right, disaster movie, the world ending, but where's the other stuff? Now, with Pods, we attached a template to the same thing, to the same post type. Metabox has this new thing called views. It allows us, and there's some really advanced things here, we can call this one our single movie view. Same type of thing. I can come in here and say, we'll just do H2. Well, how do I get the movie title? In the same way, Pods. Now, this uses a Twig markup language. If you're familiar with Twig, it's a way to do basically HTML structure where we can ask if-then statements. We can do some additional conditional logic ideas. But my button over here is insert field, where now all the fields that exist in this WordPress website. So I can pull up post title. Then do something like, this movie is about the content. Oops, I don't want it twice. And then do something like, and was directed by, come over here, director. Boom. So now I can say, I'm going to use it for the singular or the archive. If you want to know more about all these other things, which are really cool, you definitely want to be part of the WPStudio membership as I go dive deep into this. But we're going to add a rule and say, for my singulars, for every movie singular one, or I could just choose which posts get this special setting. we're going to now use this as a way to display our content. Now I can choose to do only the post area, the layout between the header and the footer. I'll do all three of these just so you see what it does. So let's go ahead and publish this. So we now have a rule for where this is going to be used. So let's go back over to our movie, view, and look. Because it has some horrible formatting and I didn't do any HTML proper, there's our stuff. But it dumped everything in between the header and the footer. Because remember, I can now just say, hey, I'm now going to rewrite this whole page. And if I did some good styling, I now can output whatever I want and override the theme. Or I can come over here and say only the post content where we have the similar things, the same thing that Pods offers, before it, after it, or replace the post content, update this, and now we are presented with our disaster movie in the proper theme format. And was directed by Bob Robertson, whatever. Again, I'm just simply plopping these things out there for you. So as a quick wrap up, because I only have about 2 minutes or so left, again, trying to stay under the hour mark for each one of these training ideas. Tomorrow, we are going to open the floodgates and go beyond just, oh, let's create a custom post type and let's add something. We're going to take a look at settings pages. We're going to dive into concepts of conditional logic. So literally advanced conditional logic of let's choose a, just so you see here, where's my advance? A conditional logic of only if the director equals Bob will we see this field length of movie. If Bob is not the answer to director, we're not going to show this field. So all of a sudden, Metabox opens the door to you to build advanced solutions for your clients or your own websites. We can do some of that with Pods, but not to the level we can do it with Metabox. And then on specifically Wednesday, we will take a look at how these tools work with page builders, how these works with other solutions. But part of the reason, again, why we looked at it, advanced custom fields and other things requires you to use tools that show the fields or allow you to put those fields into a theme or a page builder. Both Pods and Metabox offers this powerful tool called the views. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of introduction to Pods and Metabox. WPStudio is going through a massive rebranding, relaunching. I've been teaching for 15 years about WordPress and all the things that we can do with it. If you want to be up to date on what we are doing, be alerted to upcoming free and premium trainings, as well as membership information. For now, if you just want to sign up for the latest WordPress news by going over to WPStudio, that way you won't miss anything out. Or you can simply like and follow both the Facebook channel or the YouTube channel, whichever one you guys came on and joined for. Again, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. I do hope I'll see you back tomorrow at 2 p.m., same time. And we will get into some advanced stuff with WordPress and Pods and Metabox. And if you have any questions or you want to cover certain things, put it in the comments, either on Facebook or YouTube. I will look at them tonight and before the webinar tomorrow. And if I can answer any of them during the live session tomorrow, we will do that. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the Monday. Hope to see you guys tomorrow, and check out WPStudio. There's not much if you're not a member. If you are a member, there's still a lot of stuff over there. But if you're not a member, really the only thing you can do is sign up for the email. But more is coming. So take care. Have a great rest of the day, and I will see you all soon.